chainsaws around and acrobats. And you know, if our next guest can get this team into the playoffs, I think they should book him because he could be a magician. It's Rick Sweet, the manager of the Bats. And Rick, welcome back to the program. And I'll tell you what, you got another challenge on your hands. You got about three and a half games to make up in the wild card. And once again, you're dealing with a roster that is in a major state of flux. So you keep the great mindset about it. You just go about your business, but it does present a challenge. There's no question.
Well, it does. You know what? I'm not juggling chainsaws, so I guess my job's a little safer. I just juggle players. But, yeah, you know, Greg does do an awesome job, and some of the acts he brings in, we just shake our heads. He's brought some interesting stuff to the ballpark.
He never misses a beat. I go to basketball games, and I'll text them from halftime of the game. It's an act I've never seen. It's something bizarre, Rick. I mean, like, you know, some lady's shooting plates out of her ear or something, and, you know, I go, this is incredible. And I'll text it to Greg. I'll say, Greg, I'm seeing a lady, and as I'm describing the act, he's texting back the name of the act, what city she works out of. He's already contacted them, so I've given up. I just... you know, there are people who are better at what they do than I am, so I leave that to him. And I'll leave it to you to tell me a little bit about, you know, really where you think this team is right now. It's only three and a half games in the wild card with lots of baseball to go. What kind of, what are you looking for from your club to make another late season run like you did last year?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just try to find some stability. And that being said, that's probably not going to happen. So we need to overcome that. Obviously, 10 minutes before the game last night, I lost Yonder Alonso, my number 3 hole hitter, which is, you know, is been our best hitter, probably most consistent all year. Of course, we got him to Cincinnati, and he got a big double for the Reds last night. So, you know, that's the nature of what I've got going right now. But that being said, that is what my job is, and you know, right now I'm getting some young guys in. I've gotten 2 guys up from AA. I'm going to get a 3rd one here in a day or 2 and get them involved in the mix and try to get them up to speed on what we do here at the AAA level.
Some of those guys, I want to get to those guys in a minute, but I want to finish on Alonso. I read somewhere that you told them before the game that you told them, just go. You don't have to pick anything, just go. Get out. Like, it was so pressed for time, he had to get out of the locker room right then and just grabbed a couple of bats and a pair of shoes or something and took off. Was it that chaotic getting him out of there?
Well, I hate to use the word chaotic. But yes, they called me. I was out in the field, you know, getting ready for the lineups, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from Bob Miller and said, we need Alonso here at ASAP. And I didn't even ask what for. I said, okay, thanks, bye. You know, Alonso's out getting ready. I actually had talked to them earlier in the day, so I was aware. I talked to Walt earlier in the day, so I knew there was something going on. So I was somewhat prepared, and then I told Alonso. He goes, well, what about my clothes? I said, go in and change and get to Cincinnati. We're an hour and a half away. You can drive back and get some clothes tomorrow. And then I walked in, you know, I did the lineup with the umpires, and I walk in the clubhouse, and he's in there shaking hands. And I said, get your ass dressed and get out of here. And he kind of looked at me. So I excuse me for using that language.
Okay, that's just what you told him.
You know, he's in there getting glad-handed from all the players on the team. Well, they need him in Cincinnati.
And my understanding was he wasn't up there for the start of the game. He didn't pull into like the 5th inning, and they basically ran him right out, and he wound up getting a big hit. So.
Oh yeah, well, there's no way he could. They started at 7, same as us, and I told him we started 7:05, and I told him at 10 to 7. So he didn't leave here until, you know, I mean, he got straight there. They had a uniform waiting for him, threw him in uniform, and hey, get stretched a little bit and go hit a double.
I love stories like that. That is the real inside stuff of how it works. Rick Sweet, the manager of the Bats, with us. But here's what I wanted to ask you. You mentioned some guys coming up from AA. I don't know how this works, so you can educate me and our listeners. When you are in spring training and some of these guys are not going to be at the major league level, some of these guys coming up from AA, will you have worked with them in the spring, or some of them you literally haven't even seen before?
Well, some of them I've worked with in spring training. Actually, Dennis Phipps and Castro were 2 guys. They just got here. Phipps has actually been here 3 games. Castro was first game last night. Perez will be here in the next day or 2. I had all 3 of those guys most of spring training. So, you know, I spent 2 or 3 weeks with them. I know them. They know me. That makes it a lot easier when we bring these guys up. And, so we have that. We've been together before. We know each other, so that makes it easier. But now the next step is, they've played at a different level. My job is to not only get them ready for this level, but dang well better make sure that they're ready for the big league level when they get up there, so they can go hit doubles for Dusty.
Yeah, and Phipps hasn't been here long, but had a couple of hits last night, and was 2 for 5 last night with a double. So tell us a little about him. We don't know very much about him. Give us a little bit of background on him.
Well, the way it's looking, you're going to know a lot about him. He started the season in Double-A. He was a guy that's been in our organization for a while. He was hitting, I think at the end of May, was hitting about 190, and was really in close to being sent down. He was struggling at the Double-A level, and all of a sudden the month of June started, and it's like something got into him. And he absolutely went off and started hitting balls to every part of the ballpark, started hitting home runs. He's a big, strong, talented young man, but he really played great for the last 6 weeks in Double-A. We brought him up here, and he got a couple of hits the first night, and he's racking off right now at a 400 clip for us. So he's playing pretty good baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. Rick Sweet, the manager of the Bats, with us here, trying to, I guess he does it this time every year, and it's just part of the business. The guys come and go. That's the nature of baseball, and he's got some new guys that'll be filling in a lineup. But one guy who left, Yonder Alonso, we know he can hit. But, Rick, tell me a little bit. Again, not talking out of school, but my understanding was one of the hesitations was they weren't quite sure he was ready to play outfield at the big league level. How far does he have to still come defensively? What do you make of his defensive skills?
Well, one thing I'll say is you worry about when you take an infielder and put him in the outfield, their jumps and routes to the ball. In other words, their instincts. And are they going to work for him? And will that be an easy transition? The nice part with Alonso is that was an easy transition. He had very good athleticism. His jumps, routes to the ball, his instincts were pretty good. The drawback that Alonso has is basically his speed. He's a below-average runner. He doesn't have a lot of speed. And when you're playing the outfield, you want that range, and that's the one area where we're not sure just how good a player he can be out there because we're unsure about the range.
I'd be remiss if I let you go without asking you this. I'm not trying to get you to say something that's going to make its way onto Twitter or on, something like that. But I don't know. You're busy managing your own team, so it's difficult to see other games, let alone major league games. But the game last night, if you didn't see it, you must have heard about it. At the bottom of the 19th inning between the Pirates and the Braves, Pirates have the infield in, a grounder to third. They throw it home. Julio Lugo's out by about 700 feet, and the catcher makes a swipe tag, and the umpire calls him safe. And Clint Hurdle, I think I heard his head explode here all the way in Louisville. He was so angry with good reason. The umpire said at the time, well, I thought I saw daylight, but then he watched the replay and realizes he missed the call. I mean, what are your thoughts? Because I just don't understand. I understand you don't want to assume anything just because the ball beat the guy. But especially if we're trying to keep runners from blowing up catchers at the plate there and his next catcher, you can appreciate that. I mean, you got to call that guy out there, don't you, Rick?
Well, no, I disagree. You don't have to call him out. I go back to exactly when I heard about it late last night, and then I watched the replay today. Part of this ball game has always been that collision at home plate. They're worried about protecting the catcher. Well, in that situation, they should have been worried about protecting the runner. He should have buried that runner. If you want to make sure of an out, and I tell my guys, we actually had a play here the other day where it was a simple tag out at second base. The umpire called him safe. The ball beat him, but it was a little weak swipe tag, and he called him safe. Well, I'll tell you what, if he had buried that tag into the guy like I want them to, they wouldn't have called him safe. Same thing on that play at home plate. If he had, instead of making a swipe tag like you're talking about, if he had made a more aggressive tag, he's definitely out, and they're still playing.
See, I don't understand that either. I mean, I didn't play at a high level, but I remember, the first thing they used to teach is catch the ball, and the ball's there that far ahead of the runner, stick it in front of the base, let him slide into it if he's sliding, and that guy was sliding. But I never understood this idea of pulling your hand through and making the swipe tag. When did that come into vogue exactly?
Well, it came into play when everybody started worrying about just what they did with the Posey play. Let's protect, make sure we don't get hurt. A lot of money to be made now. The last thing in the world a catcher wants to do now is get hurt to where maybe it's career-ending. The dynamics of the game have changed a little bit. But the bottom line for me is you're in the 19th inning. I don't make a swipe tag. I go ahead, and I'm not talking about trying to bury the guy and hurt the guy.
Right.
But go ahead and plant your shin guard, which is your protection, right there. Let him slide into that. Make the tag. Make it easy for the umpire.
Exactly.
Well, I don't want to make it. Officials in all sports have a tough job, and quite frankly, they're usually found to be correct a lot more than they're found to be wrong. When they do the slow-mo and everything like that, the percentages definitely go on the umpires or the referee's side. But the bottom line is, let's take it away from that umpire. That's what I tell my players, and make a good aggressive tag and make it simple for that guy to make the correct call.
Oh, you could have been a basketball coach. We had that discussion many times. Don't give the guy a chance to make the call that sticks it in when you get it in the shorts.
Yeah, because then I get thrown out of the game, and then I'm going to come blame you for me getting tossed.
Only got about a minute real quick. You got Edison Volquez going tonight. How's he shaping up for you?
You know what? He pitched a complete game. Only one I've had all year. Last time out, he's pitching very well. He's a man on a mission. I hope he goes out and sticks it to him again tonight. And quite frankly, I expect him to. I would be surprised if he has anything other than an outstanding outing tonight.
Well, we hope you get it because we want to see another late season run, Rick. It's always great to catch up with you. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks.
Sounds good. Get out to the ballparks, Bob.
All right, Rick. Rick Sweet with us. Always love talking to him, and appreciate the insight. What a great story about Alonso. That made me laugh. He gets back. It's just like one of your kids. You got to get to Cincinnati, and he leaves. He comes back. He's doing it, shaking hands, taking congratulations. Doesn't matter how old they are. They're still kids. It's unbelievable. It was like, you go through that discussion when you get ready to send your kid to bed, don't you? What are you still doing here? Get up to bed. Well, it's the same thing. Get up to Cincinnati. Oh, my. It's a great story. Tonight, 7:05. Louisville with Rochester in town and Volquez on the hill, and they need this one. They're still in the hunt. 3.5 out, and he's got some new guys coming up. And Dennis Phipps, the guy, you heard him. That is the name to watch. Guy's batting about 4 bills for Louisville since he's come to town. He's off to a great start, and we'll look forward to seeing him. And, of course, the Reds you can hear right here as they try and get back on the winning ways against the surprising New York Metropolitans. The Mets are over 500 in a year where they were just supposed to be god-awful. So lots of baseball to talk about here on ESPN Radio. Of course, football.